Hey guys, Ripley here. Thank you so much for tuning in. As some of you might have seen by now, we hit 7,000 subscribers, so it's really, really exciting. Right now, we're getting about 500 subscribers per month, give or take. So, again, I couldn't have done it without all of your guys' great support and everything that you guys have been doing to stay engaged in the community. And so, as I said, I'm going to pick out two winners. I had already done this it's basically a website where you paste your YouTube URL and it'll randomly pick a comment. So the two winners are, the first one is Art Muddick. Sorry if I don't pronounce your name correctly, your last name. Art says, great job and thanks for the chance to win. Congratulations, Art. You are one of the winners of the Succulents. I'm going to comment right below your comment in order to make sure that you know that you had won some Succulents. The best way for you to get into contact with me is either through Facebook, just search Ripley Sartain, or send me an email at wisconsinwondergarden@gmail.com. Our second winner is Pamela the Southern Belle. Pamela says, I love your channel. I've missed you for a while, but grateful you're back. Please remember that children always come before this, LOL. I live in Georgia and I'm planning to bring in my little babies inside. Do you have any advice? So essentially she's bringing her succulents inside for the winter. And she's wondering what she can do to help them through that stage. What I always recommend for people to do is, if we're thinking of taking succulents inside for the winter, basically we're going to want to sort of mimic a temperature change for them so they start their natural growing pattern or continue that. So we want it in a room that's a little bit colder than the average temperature of the house. I would say if your house is, 70 degrees or so, get it into somewhere where it's maybe like 60s, somewhere in the 60s. So the succulents see a little bit of a temperature change. So they change their patterns of growth, because that's going to produce better growth for you through the next year. So besides that, you're going to make sure that you have your standard high drainage container for the succulents, and you're only watering when needed, very, very minimally. Usually most people only water their succulents once every couple of weeks, and that's fine. Whatever sort of a habit that you have gotten into with your succulents, if you're seeing it work, keep at that and water it at the same rate, maybe slightly less, because generally with less wind movement and stuff like that, you're not going to have as much dehydration, or evaporation, I should say, of the water in the pot. So a little bit less watering than usual, good drainage, and bring it into a colder room in the house, whether that be somewhere downstairs or a garage, something like that, but not too cold. You don't want it going, for most succulents like echeverias, aeoniums and stuff like that, you're not going to want it to go very far below like 50 degrees, even like high 40s. You don't want to get into for very long at all. So a little bit colder, but not too cold. And you should be just fine. If you're having it inside and away from a window, that's another good point. If you want a slightly colder area, tuck it up next to a window, but not too close where the petals are touching the window, because then that sometimes might freeze them. But tuck them up close to a window, because you're going to have lower temperatures there just naturally because of the window and the glass. So there's that. If it's not by a window and you have it in a separate room, maybe provide some supplemental lighting if you want to. Just buy there's all sorts of LEDs that you can buy that work great. They don't consume a lot of energy, and the plants really, really love them. So just hop over on Amazon, or even better yet, visit your local garden store, your depot, your supplier, whoever is nearby. I always recommend shopping local first and checking with your local growers and suppliers to see if they have any sort of equipment that might work for you. With that being said, that is just about it. Again, if you guys are tuning in and you are either Art Muddick, I don't know how to pronounce your last name, I'm sorry, and Pamela the Southern Belle, you guys are the winners. I'm going to go in the chat real quick and see who is all tuning in. Jonathan says hi. Sissy Moss says hi from Northeast Arkansas. Hello and good luck with 7K subscribers, says Ruthie's Succulent Obsession. Thank you. And Carly says congrats on 7K. Carly was actually one of our winners in the past, and she has an Instagram page. It's c.botanical, I believe. Carly, I don't know if you're still tuned in or not, but just comment below if you want some people to head over there and check out your pictures. Carly had shown the pictures of the succulents that we sent her, and they're doing really, really good. So happy to see that. Hi from England. Hello, Liz. While we're here tuning in live, I figured I might as well go and do some questions. If you guys have any questions, I do have an Ask Ripley episode that comes out I've been trying to do like once a month with it, maybe a little bit longer, because I am trying to get a nice group of questions in it before I put an episode out, but usually every month. But I figured I would take some questions. See, Carly L says, yep, that's it. So at c.botanical on Instagram, you bet, Carly. The pictures look great. All the succulents are growing, look super healthy. So really happy about that. It's the most rewarding thing about doing this and having this YouTube channel is the fact that I'm able to spark a little bit of interest in people that maybe haven't gotten into growing plants at all. And I think that's why growing succulents is such a great place to start, is because it's nice and easy. It's fun for everybody, no matter what age you are, because you can take all these little petals and grow them, and you get to see this little baby grow up from tiny, teensy, tiny little thing to grow into a full-blown plant, and that's really cool. So that sparks people's interest and gets them to want to learn more about gardening and growing and vegetables and all the different plants that there is. So that's the coolest thing about doing this, is that I am able to see the changes that other people are making in their lives, which is great. I got a question here. Some of my plants die and got wet and rot, and the middle soil is dry. Okay, so Liz, I would wonder what your watering schedule is on those, or how big your container is, and if you have a drainage hole in that, or multiple drainage holes for that matter. Typically, if your plant got, if it rotted and died, but yet the middle soil is dry, the soil might be dry at this point, but what happened was it was either overwatered or the plant was damaged at some point that caused irreversible damage and killed that succulent. But going back to the rot, you might have overwatered it at some point, and then the plant began to rot, and now that you're finally seeing that rot, it's essentially going to start at the very bottom right by the soil and work its way up. So now that you're seeing it start to rot, the water that you put into your container has evaporated and gone away, but that plant has irreversible damage to it because of that. Liz, if you get a chance, just drop a comment on what your watering schedule is or whatever, and we'll see if we can help you out. Tristan, nice to see you, brother. Tristan is an avid, he does great at filming and Facebooking and documenting current events. So it's always good to see you, buddy. You know, from my very first channel, Ripley Sartain, I still have it today. I did like vlogs and stuff like that. Tristan was a guy I got connected to way back then, a few years ago. So nice to see you doing well also. And you're welcome, Liz. Like I said, with succulents, it's just the watering is definitely going to have to be a minimal. So if you have, let's say you have a container. Here, I'm going to grab this one right here, actually. So these are some succulents that I'm growing here. I'm testing out a grow light. They're a little bit etulated. You see they're trying to reach out for that light because I just haven't had the light on very much, maybe like 3 or 4 hours a day, if that. But I'm going to use this as an example. A pot like this size. How much am I going to water this? It has a hole down in the middle. It's just standard soil, and I got some peat moss mixed into it. That's my favorite. Also, if you guys don't know that, my most common mixture is going to be peat moss and just regular gardening soil, but not fertilized. You don't want any additives in it at all, just plain old soil. Or even better yet, if you have a place you just want to pick up some succulent soil, that works too. So a container like this, I'm only going to water like once every 2 weeks. Unless you're misting it every day, that's another technique. If you would like, you can mist it every day. But when I water this every 2 weeks, I'm putting in about half a cup of water for a container this size. And that's it. Just slowly dribbling it right around the base of the plants. So most of the water gets right by the root systems. Some people even use like little droppers and stuff like that, medicine droppers or whatnot, and apply the water directly to the base. So that'll give you an idea, like half a cup for this big old thing. Drainage. I don't have rocks in the bottom. That's necessary if you are having problems with the container holding water. That's what the rocks are for down at the bottom, is so that water can be held in a layer and it's not going to disturb the plant or cause any damage. But most of the time, rocks at the bottom aren't totally necessary, but you can make the extra step if you would like to. My daughter, who's 17, started with the plants and can grow them from leaves. That's awesome. Yeah, it's a lot of fun to do that. I love growing succulents from leaves because, you know, from one little plant you can just make a ton of little babies. So it's really, really fun. They can rot from water sitting in between the leaves and the soil is dry. Absolutely. So if you see water pooling on the leaves, or if you got any, so say like I guess Aeonium kiwi would be a good example because it has a pretty tight condensed rosette with some wide thick leaves and not a lot of space in between there, and they can hold water. So if you have a succulent that's shaped like that and is going to hold water, yes, definitely, you are right. That will leave some damage as well if it's in there for a long period of time. No feeding. Typically, no, Liz, I don't feed succulents at all. Some people do, just a very minute amount, because succulents like just a super bland soil. I mean, if you think of where they're growing, typically it's just harsh environments with not a lot of fertilizer, not a lot of organic matter being thrown into that soil or put into that soil. It's usually a drier climate. They're not in need of a lot of extra organic matter or fertilizer being added. Maybe that's another thing. Another reason why I found peat moss to be so good is because, you know, the little wood chips and stuff like that, and bark or whatever might be mixed into that peat moss, all that stuff slowly starts to add to the soil, but it's very, very minimal. It's very slow. So that might be a reason that helps. Do you use grow lights on leaf propagation? You can. I think so. Usually, like during the first stages of propagation for leaves, you wouldn't need a grow light at all. So that's when the roots are starting to shoot out. At that point, the most important part is to get that leaf to search for water, to try and reach out and grab some water with those roots. That's number one. So, a very, very, very light watering schedule or a light misting every day is all it takes for those. But once you start to see little rosettes, then yeah, you can go ahead and put a grow light on there and you'll see nice compact growth from the get-go. It depends on what your preference is. If you want faster growth, if you would like to see your plant grow faster but not necessarily healthier, I have a video about this. If you check it out, it's all about etulated succulents and fast growing succulents and the differences between those. Actually, two videos. The last one was on my Ask Ripley. But if you check that out, you'll be able to see the differences. So, like I'm saying, at this point, it's really up to you. If you would like, if you put a grow light on it during propagation, it's going to stay compact. It's going to seem like it's growing slower, but it's going to be growing healthier and will overall produce better colors for you as well. So there's that. Let's see. Pale whose stem is turning pinkish. Check it every day and is still strong, not squishy. Feeling like rot, but is still not doing good. What should I do? Selena, at that point, I would check to see, I don't know what kind of lights you have, if it's wrinkly or not. If it's wrinkled up, typically, actually, it's funny because wrinkly stems is a sign of both underwatering and overwatering sometimes, depending on the succulents. I'm not very familiar with that Perle Von. I would have to look that up. But if it's turning colors and it's starting to look unhealthy, I would recommend to either, first of all, add light if you're not thinking it's getting enough light. Typically, that's the big cause of deformities or any sort of malnourishment in succulents. It's from the light because they require a high amount of light. So check that first. If you have any questions or you want to contact me directly about this, Selena, just send me an email, wisconsinwondergarden@gmail.com, or find me on Facebook, Ripley Sartain. What sort of insecticide is safe for succulents to kill root mealybugs? I have not used any sort of insecticides. I mean, typically, trying to think of what might be helpful. Man, I don't even use any sort of spray or anything. If one thing you could do, which is actually what I do if I get any sort of bugs or aphids and stuff like that on my succulents, is I'll take water and I'll spray them off. Spray them very, very well to make sure they're all gone. Flush them down the toilet. Drain them down the sink. Whatever you got to do, get rid of those bugs before they spread throughout your whole house and spread throughout your planters. Get rid of them. If you do a quick Google search, that's all I can recommend, because I don't have any personal experience with insecticides or any sprays like that. But another great DIY is just take a hard flush of water to get rid of those plants. You could even, or get rid of those bugs. You could even physically remove the plant itself, remove that succulent from the soil, shake off all the dirt and everything, and then flush it with water and make sure everything is gone. That way you can ensure that they're not going to be eating at your plant any longer. It's a little bit inconvenient, a little bit messy, but it'll definitely get the job done. Sharon, I'll check out the videos. Good. Let's see. If you have good morning sun, do you still need a grow light? I'll show you guys firsthand. So Amy is asking if she needs a grow light. If you have good morning sun. Here are my succulents that I have. They're facing straight east. This whole window here. I have several videos on these hanging baskets that we made. This macrame and those little fairy gardens. So we have all kinds of succulents in here growing. And as you guys can see, they're very happy and healthy. It's kind of hard to see on the video. I don't get a lot of good color in here because of how dark it is. But I want to show you all of these succulents here. Those are all doing great. Some Graptosedums. I think those are Graptosedum paraguayenses. And they're doing really good. And they're facing east. So all I get is a morning sun. Usually starting, you know, obviously from like an hour after sunrise. And then you have maybe up until like 10 or 11, you have nice solid sunlight. But anytime after that, it's just the ambient light outside, and they do great. So yeah, typically morning sun will be okay as long as you get that and they're not being burnt from it either. Usually morning sun doesn't burn them too much. It's the afternoon sun you're going to want to worry about more. So morning sun should be okay. Yep, you're welcome, Selena. Again, let me know if you have any more questions. Hi, Sheila. How are you doing? Hope you're having a good day. Anybody else with any questions, just go ahead and drop it down below. I figured I would stick on here for a while since I got you guys. It's nice to actually sit and talk like this. It's cool because I can get a lot of questions answered, and it's great to interact with you guys and see what you're all up to, all that good stuff. See if I missed any questions at all. I don't think so. I'll just talk about some plans that we have going on. Right now, our larger garden, we just produced a bunch of jam from our grapes. Those did really good. We have not yet trimmed them up or cut them. This is our second year of growth with it. I'm working on developing that main stem, so I'll be producing a video on how to trim up that over the winter. I'll be making that you can either do it in the fall or early spring. I'll probably end up doing it very late fall, cutting up that grapevine and showing you guys how to do that and how to develop it correctly. But the grapes were doing really good this year for just a second year of growth. We got tons of grapes from it, and the stuff tastes great. Our grow bed this year, our vegetable grow bed, we grew zucchini, some acorn squash, regular squash, some watermelon, tomatoes, peppers, beans, and a couple peas. Just enough to give us a nice snack every once in a while, except for those zucchini, because everybody knows who grows zucchini, you end up with way too much every single year, no matter what. Even if you just make one plant, usually there's so much zucchini you can feed a whole village off of it. A great thing to do with zucchini is make zucchini spaghetti. Just shred that up into long peels and make some spaghetti with it. Super, super yummy. I have some baby willows. Okay, we got a couple questions. I have some baby willows growing in water. When do you think I should put them in the ground? So once your roots are firm enough to where they're not going to break off of your original cutting, your clone, then you should be pretty okay with doing it. What some people do, and I've done in the past too, is gradually add more and more soil to your water mixture. So you can try it a couple different ways. It depends on how many cuttings you have. If you got a few cuttings and you want to experiment with it, it's a lot of fun to do. And it's a great thing about gardening is because there's so many ways to do one task. So the different ways to do this one task of cloning your willow is either you could take your cup of water, whatever you got, and slowly add more soil to it so it starts building up on the bottom and is eventually going to overtake those roots, and that way those roots are well acclimated to the very wet, basically being submerged in water. And then after you get up to the top, that water is slowly going to evaporate out, and you're going to add water as it gets dry. And then over time, you'll be able to take that. You'll be able to pull on your cutting and see if those roots have taken hold enough to where you can remove it from your original cup and then place it into a pot with drainage. I like to use just the little plastic starter cups at first because they're nice and easy, because you're going to want to transplant it one more time after that, typically into the ground, into the new place, that wherever you might want to put it. But I don't put it directly into the ground after you have it growing in water in your original cloning process. So there's that, or you could take that clone out of the water and then again into a small, usually plastic container, the starter containers, and then just drop in soil around it. You don't want to put a little hole and then mash it into the soil typically. You want to be really, really soft with those roots if you can, or if your roots are maybe like an inch or half an inch long, then push a small little hole around the soil and then put in your clone and then fill in soil around it. That is an okay way as well. The biggest thing is just making sure you don't damage the roots, and then you want to water it quite a bit for the first watering, and then actually for the first couple of weeks. Give it some nice heavy waterings, but not too much so you're creating rot. But with willow, they're so resilient, they usually take hold no matter what. I have a couple of videos if you want to search. I'm not sure if I cover that exactly, but just go ahead and on my channel search willow, and a few videos should come up. I think I made them. They were some of my first videos that I made my first spring. I did a lot of like cloning videos, so those would be in there. The spring of 2017. Yeah, the spring of 2017, you should be able to find those videos. 10 cuttings, and try them both. Awesome. Good to see. Amy is asking again, what about cloudy days or for say 3 or 4 days? Succulents will be fine for 3 or 4 days, no problem. With a, you know, you're not getting as much sunlight as you normally would in that morning window, like you were talking about. I'd assume just east facing or whatever it might be, southeast, northeast. Northeast can be a little bit tricky sometimes, but eastward facing, if you get a nice morning sun, you'll be fine. And for 3 or 4 days, they're not going to really see much of a difference in growth or color or anything. Usually, succulents can even go up to like a good week solid at least. Sometimes up to like a week and a half with very little light. Sometimes we have gone off on a trip, vacation with the family, and come back home and realized we had the blinds shut. You saw all of our succulent planters we have in our east facing windows, and we come back home after a week and realize the blinds have been shut the whole time, and those succulents haven't gotten a single ray of light that whole time, and no problem whatsoever. So they're pretty tolerable with varying conditions like that, and I don't see that you'll have a problem with 3 or 4 days of cloudy weather. Okay. Let's see if we got anybody. What's up, Croy? Nice to see you. Thanks for tuning in. For anybody else new who's tuning in, we're just basically, I'm going through some questions or comments, anything that you guys might want to bring up that I can talk about. Definitely in for it right now. I mentioned the winners before were Art, Muddick, and Pamela, the Southern Belle. If you guys have tuned in yet, you guys are the winners of the succulents. Reach out to me on Facebook, Ripley Sartain, or email wisconsinwondergarden@gmail.com. Anybody has any more questions? I don't think so. I'll give it a few minutes. Let's see what else I can talk about. My air plants. I was meaning to make a video on air plants, but I've found them kind of tricky. So I don't know if any of you guys have air plants. I've really just bought my first set of air plants this year, and I'm finding that even with watering them how I'm supposed to, excuse me, I gotta get some water. They're just not growing the way that I would like them, and the air plants seem to be drying up a little bit quicker than I thought to. Here, I'll just show you. Here's the one there. This one flowered. And then this one here is doing okay. This one's pretty dry. We had the larger portion of this. It was about twice its size. The old large portion died off. I think it was because it kind of produced this offset here. And then this one, as you can see, this one flowered and it's doing really well. That one's okay. But what I'm doing with those for watering is typically every week and a half to 2 weeks, sometimes every week, depending on if I remember to do it, to be honest. Like all of us, we have a lot of plants to take care of. So every week and a half to 2 weeks, I will take them all down, take them out of their globes, and I'll get a big kitchen bowl and submerge them in water for usually like 10 to 15 minutes. And just let them sit there, sit in the water. They'll soak up the water, and then stick them back up in the globes, and that's it. So the watering, I think, is not quite the issue. I think what the problem is maybe lighting, because all they have over there is just our kitchen lights, and we got the little ambient lighting from the grow lights there, but that's it. They don't really get much sunlight because we're pushed off from our patio doors here about 15 feet or so. So there's almost no sunlight that they're getting, just the ambient light of the room and all the other lights. So I'm thinking that might not be enough light. What I'm going to be doing is experimenting a little bit for a while before I make a video, so I can ensure that I'm giving you guys the right directions, the right instructions, and all that good stuff before just throwing a video out on the care. I would rather do it firsthand before making that video. So there's that. Our peace plant is doing good. All the succulents are doing great. The cactus planter is getting to be really, really big. I suppose what I could do for you guys is show you the this is a good treat, the hydroponic center. I don't have, hopefully it's not too dark. If it's too dark, I can just turn on the grow light. The colors will change a little bit, but you'll be able to get to see. So this is our hydroponics. Hi from UK, congratulations on your subscribers. Thank you, Raising 7 Munchkins. So this is our hydroponics that we just started up a little bit ago, and we're kind of in the testing and experimental phase of this one. I've had a different hydroponics center in the past that was, well, it was actually aquaponics. I had fish underneath. If any of you are wondering, that's the main difference. Hydroponics does not use fish, only uses water, and aquaponics uses fish underneath. I'm looking at introducing crayfish down below at some point. It might be probably this winter when we get bored and don't have a lot of time to spend outside. I'll be doing that. But I want to show you the great colors that these succulents have been putting off. Nice growth and beautiful colors. Really vivid. They're growing nice and slow too, which shows me that they're healthy. We got a couple of Graptosedum, some Aeonium kiwis, some Burrow's tail there, and then we have Sempervivum here. This propagation tray, we're going through our next cycle with that. I don't have any, these are all just leftover petals that have been sitting there. Like, I'm trying to get all that. You can tell they're trying to reach out for light. I just have them sitting there because they're kind of the duds from last time. Plants that I didn't want to use. I had much better plants in the set, so these have just been sitting there. So ignore those. But yeah, these have been doing really, really great. I have yet to record it, but I'm making an official video on this shortly, where we're going to rearrange some of the succulents and the Sempervivum, get rid of all these containers, and back here I have some more substrate, more of this stuff here. These are just grow rocks. Essentially they're made out of recycled glass, and then these are made out of clay that's mined from the earth. So the glass is super nice because it's really easy to clean. It doesn't make a mess, and it's completely recycled as well. So that's a great thing about these glass grow rocks that you can use if you guys have a hydroponics or anything like that. But I think as far as beneficial value goes, they're just about even. But yeah, I'll be making a video on that. Some of these I'm going to top. So basically I'm going to take right at this first segment of stem here, I'm going to take this and cut these off, cut the rosettes off, and propagate them. That way the current stem that's in there and growing, the growth will be directed into the stem more. It'll have a nice thick base, and that's what I do. I do a lot of cutting on my succulents. I trim them up almost constantly, and I just find that they do so much better and produce a lot of really strong, healthy offsets that way. Anybody have any questions about hydroponics or aquaponics while you're at it? Drop them below. I got this is a little 50 watt light here. Let me just turn it on. So it's a UFO light. You got your standard diodes. Oops. Your blue, red, and white. That way you kind of get a full spectrum. It definitely does the job well. I think that they might be able to use a little bit more light, but what I'm going to do is just drop this down a couple more inches and see how the plants react that way. Because I'm seeing a little bit of lengthy growth on them, not a lot, but it's enough to where it's kind of pointing me to believe that they could use a little bit more light than this 50 watt, so I'm just going to bring it right down, and that should be enough for them. So yeah, there's lots of experimentation no matter what you're doing in the garden. So it's always trial and error. This is on a timer, so I'll show you. You can see my light is on from about 8:30 until 6:30, or whether that's right at 9 and 7. Either way, time on, time off. And then this timer is great. You see all the small little notches are 15 minutes each, so I can turn the pump on for 15 minutes each hour. And what that does is pumps water up into a siphon that is about 1.5 inches below the surface of this of my grow rocks and stuff. So it'll bring the water up to that maximum level, and then after the pump turns off, it'll drain all out. So that way the succulents are just getting a kiss of water, once every hour for 15 minutes. And they've been doing really, really good. They do love it a lot. I know there's not a lot of people growing succulents hydroponically or aquaponically at the time. So, I think it's been a lot of fun to do it and test it out and see if it works, because usually you'd think succulents and water don't mix well. There, you can hear the pump just went off. So I was going to say, usually succulents and water don't seem to mix, but this is quite the contrary when you're using a hydroponics or aquaponics system, because they're just submerged in that water for a very short period of time. They can soak up what they need, and they seem to be really, really happy. Okay. Well, guys, unless anybody who has recently tuned in has any questions, I think I'm going to take off for the day. I have to work early in the morning. Got to get up at 2 a.m. We have a blackout shutdown over at the hospital. I'm an electrician for Next Electric, work in Milwaukee, Wisconsin, over at Freighter. And we have early morning shutdown to test some ATSs, all that good stuff. We got video cameras recording the times that they're transferring over to emergency power, and lots of good stuff. So early morning for me, I'm sorry, but I just got here. Where are you in Wisconsin? I'm on the Minnesota-Wisconsin border. I'm just north. I might have just answered your question. I'm just north of Milwaukee, about half an hour. So over on the other side. Thank you for tuning in, though, Royal. Definitely glad to have you. Anybody else? Yeah, it's too bad. Way over there. Boy, 45 minutes on the dot. Time flies when you're having a good time, and it's been a really good time hanging out with everybody, getting your questions answered. Drop a comment below right now if you think I should do more of these live videos, these chats with you guys, because this is my first real one that I've actually done that's a lengthy period of time, and it's not one where I'm just showing my garden. So let me know if you guys liked it and enjoyed it. Comment below. I've become a succulent nut, says Royal Icing. Yes, I think we all have. We all have fallen in love with this amazing, weird, quirky, but yet super cute and beautiful niche of plants called succulents. The cool thing about them, I would say the coolest couple of things about succulents is that they're easy to grow, they're fun to grow, and there's so many different varieties of succulents out there that even like you get into like rare exotic species of succulents, it gets really, really cool, guys. There's so many different things out there in the world of succulents. It's a super great place to start when it comes to gardening. And even if you're an advanced gardener, like I said, when you get into those rare succulents, it can be really, really difficult at times too if you want to get into those. I love growing succulents and watching what you're growing in the garden. Thanks for posting and sharing. Gardening has been such a passion of mine for a long time. Stacy from Here We Grow Again, or Stacy Here We Grow Again. Thank you so much for the comment, and I totally agree. You know, gardening is something that I've been really, really passionate about for a large portion of my life, but I guess I didn't realize that I would want to spend so much time doing it until I was about 14 or 15. At that point, I had a summer where I really went out and started my own garden. Basically, I took our old horse pasture and put a big old sprinkler in the center of it, and I had maybe like a 50 to 70 foot circle. Excuse me, my throat. All this talking, guys, you got me doing. I had like a 50 to 70 foot circle where I just went crazy with the plants. I put in everything I could, everything that I saw. I remember they had the carousels at Fleet Farm with all the different seeds, and I just spent like probably about like $45 on a ton of seeds. I was out there in that garden for most of the summer tending to it, because at the time I went to an online school, so I had a lot of time out in nature, out learning. I was able to learn the sort of things that I really was inspired to, and so that was great for me. And that summer was one that really captured my imagination when it comes to growing and gardening. So from that point on, I've really, really been passionate about it too. And it's great to see it's great to see other people like you who have a strong passion for gardening. It's a great project for a teen summer. It certainly is, and it'll help them keep out of trouble too. It's cool to look at my YouTube analytics and see that I do have quite a few viewers who are 20 and under, which is great to see. I know there's a lot of people in that age group on YouTube, period, but in order, like the fact that I'm seeing that age group watching our videos as well, is super, super inspirational to me. And I just hope that I'm making a difference for the upcoming generation when it comes to gardening and plants. Yes, you're welcome. Welcome, Stacy. Looking forward to doing more of these chats with you guys. I gotta cut loose for the night. Um, my throat is getting real dry after talking for 50 minutes. I'm not used to talking for 50 minutes straight. But it's been a blast. It's been a lot of fun. Thank you all so much for tuning in. Thank you for your continued support. And as always, make sure you have a great and awesome gardening adventure. Take care, everybody.